Welcome to this special episode of the podcast to celebrate You've Got This, the book. On this episode, I'm talking to Brie Read, who is the lady and founder behind Snag Tights, that you might know better as Snag now, because the brand has expanded massively since 2017 and now makes loads of different products, including dresses, bras, hoodies, swimwear, towels, all of the things. But everything that ties the brand together is around body positivity and inclusivity. And although the brand is incredible for what it makes, the community and the vibe is something else. Go and check them out, but listen to the podcast first. I think you're going to love it. So, Snag Tights, amazing. Such a cool brand. And I think it ticks so many boxes. Tights are the devil, obviously before Snag Tights. And I'm quite tall. So I think people that are tall struggle, people that are short struggle, people that are skinny struggle, people that aren't skinny struggle. So how did you go about developing your brand in the first place? What made you think, yeah, tights are the one?
So for me, I had a really kind of bad experience with tights, where I was walking down a street and they were kind of falling down, and at one point they went like below my knee, and at that point I thought, I'm not really going to be able to lift them up, so I thought I'll take them off and then just kind of slip my shoes off, take them off, put my shoes back on, keep walking, and no one will notice. And everybody noticed. It was really embarrassing. So I thought, rather than just kind of like let that live in my head rent free for the rest of my life, I'll talk about it and, try and make a joke of it. And then I found that, it wasn't just me. Everybody had a problem with tights. All of my friends, no matter what size or shape they were, had a problem with them. And at that point, it was really, it kind of dawned on me that, everybody believes their body is wrong, where their bodies are just their bodies. The product was wrong. And at that point, it was like, I need to do something to fix this. So, I bought all the tights that were available in the market, and I worked out that they were actually all the same width. They just varied in length. And actually, no effort had been, gone into making tights that actually fit. And then it was quite a long process. It took about 2 years to get to the base product that we have now, and tights that really fit. And then, people started going, well, can you make leggings fit too? Can you make dresses fit? Can you make this fit? Can you make that fit? Can you make underwear fit? Can you make bras fit? And that's kind of what we do now, is all of those kind of problem areas where stuff doesn't fit great, we make it fit.
It's really cool. And obviously, I mean, it's hugely popular. I'm sure I was reading about you. Was it the Times? One of the fastest growing companies. Was it the Times?
Yeah, we are the 33rd fastest growing company in the UK.
That was it. It was. I'm sure it was the Times, but you have a complete block, which is amazing. I mean, how does that feel to be at that stage?
I think it always feels like a it's interesting in two ways, right? The first one is, it feels like a revolution, and I'm really proud of that, where we're changing the way things are. And the fashion patriarchy is actually a very real thing, where, clothing isn't designed to fit people, and, it is designed to make you feel crap about yourself, and people don't think about that entire process. And I love the fact that we start using, actual customers as models in all sizes, and other people start doing that as well. And you can see it starting to shift, and I think that feels really great. But I think you also get a kind of, we get very much ignored as a business. We're a very fast growing business. We're a big business now in the UK. But you wouldn't know that to talk to anyone in investment or finance or anything like that, because we solve women's issues in a women's space. And and that kind of makes me realize, or for alternative people, or for people that aren't seen. And it makes me very sad, I think, that it's still about businesses that are, I guess, more friendly to the patriarchy, and not about businesses that actually are championing the people that are broadly unseen, even though we're the vast majority, right? If you if you add it all together, you were like, you guys are crazy for not engaging with this audience, but they don't.
No, completely. When you sort of started Snags, obviously you went down the tight route. Did you have a big vision about what you were going to create?
So no, I think for me, I just really wanted clothes that or tights that fit to start with. I think it was as we started going, we realized how much of a big problem it was. Like the fashion industry in general has 35% returns. We have 1.35% returns because our
Wow.
clothes actually, and it's just when you think about it, you're like, wow, that's absolutely insane. And the more we go on with it, the more we see the difference it makes by actually, not grading clothes, by fitting every single size on real people in multiple shapes and taking the time to actually, develop a product properly. Like our bra, we did 72 different variations before we got to the bra that we liked. And,
Wow.
normally a company will do one, two at an absolute push, and we did 72. We've got denim in development at the moment, and we're already past 72 versions of that. Like that's going to be insane. And I think it's, you put so much kind of effort into the difference, and I think it's that difference that makes the, ultimately makes it a kind of stand apart kind of business from other ones.
And when you have ideas, as you said, denim or bras, how do you kind of reverse engineer all the steps you need to do to get to that result?
So it's not really us that has the ideas. So we have a Facebook group called Snag Club, and that has 20,000 members in it. And all the ideas basically come from them. So it's the stuff that they struggle with, and some of them are easy to fix, and some of them take longer. So the order we release things are in is not the urgency; it's just how long it takes us to get it right. So we kind of develop it from there, and then we look at what we want it to be. We do a kind of massive big, what's available in the market right now. Why doesn't what is available now fit? And then we start to kind of make prototypes. We do all our prototyping on a size 24, just so that we know we've got something that really works. Then when we think it's working, then we take it out to our fit models in all sizes, and we go from there. So it's a very intensive and long drawn out process. So very different from how most brands do development. But it works for us.
That's the thing, isn't it? We think about your big goals and then how you sort of plot those. There is a sort of way of doing things that perhaps others do, but the key is it needs to work for you. It doesn't need to work for you and your brand and your business, even if it's not conventional.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things we've learned more than anything else is that it's having a business like this is a pirate ship, right? It's not a you're not part of the establishment. You have to make your own rules. You do things in your own way, and you know that's a good thing. And you need to kind of stick to that. And every time you try and go, well, I'm going to be more normal, it all goes terribly wrong. So we've kind of stopped doing that, and we're just like, no, we're happy we're not normal.
I love that. And it is about those values, isn't it? If your values are a little bit out there, your ads, the way your colors that you use, the way you promote yourself is not like high street shops, but that's the point. You don't want to be that.
No, and I think that's it. We don't want to be that. And when you look at the kind of the harm I think that has been done to people through through particularly shops and buying things, like we did a survey, and 70% of people have cried in changing rooms because they've just felt so bad about themselves. I mean, you think about how emotionally damaging that is. We want to be the antithesis of that you never have that type of relationship with us. When our product arrives, it fits you, it makes you happy. And I think it's even brands, even as they start to be more inclusive, I think a lot of the damage is already done. It's like, Topshop does plus sizes now. I will never buy anything from Topshop because of how they made me feel as a teenager. Do you know what I mean? And I will never forget that. And I will never, they can be as size inclusive as they want now, but that didn't change, how horrible they were to me as a teenager, right? So I think it's about creating these really positive relationships with your customers where they know how valued they are, and they know that you will do whatever you can to make them happy, and that there is nothing wrong with them. It's like it was the clothes that was wrong, and not them, not their bodies.
Sure. No, that makes perfect sense. So thinking about your whole journey, have there been any specific sort of blocks on the way that as you've sort of progressed, you've had these stumbling blocks and they've been incredibly annoying? It could be how you felt or a situation you were kind of served with.
Oh, loads of them. I mean, we very early on we applied for there's a kind of a big Scottish awards thing, which is for startups, and then they give you a little bit of cash and some help. And we were like, this is going to be great for us. And we applied for it, and they said that our turnover figures or our turnover expectations were wildly unrealistic, and we'd never make anything like that. And tights was a stupid market and had all sorts of problems in it. So we didn't get on the thing. We actually, in our first year, we turned over 3 times what the expectations were in that document.
Wow.
So we went back a couple of years later and we're like, okay, well, we'll try again, right? And the next time we tried, they said we were too big and we didn't need their help, and that we were too successful. So why were we applying?
Oh
And you're like,
gosh.
great. But you also find things like, we find getting investment, for example, impossible, because it's incredibly difficult to, explain to a bunch of, men in finance how life changing, this product is and this brand is, and they don't see it and they don't want to see it. And, it means that we have to do everything ourselves all of the time, which is amazing, because you do it all yourself and it has a great amount of confidence with it. But at the same time, the setup to help businesses in the UK hasn't helped us at all. And I think that's very sad, and I think it's very hard to be an ethical alternative brand that doesn't make massive margin because you're trying to be affordable. Nobody helps, nobody wants to know, nobody wants to do anything with it. So you do get a lot of these blocks that other brands don't have.
Did you find that any of those made you doubt your journey, knocked your confidence, or did it make you all the more determined?
So I'm a very strange person. I have When I believe in something, I believe in it utterly. So for me, my confidence has never been shaken in this business, because I see the difference it makes every day. So, I don't I've never felt like that. I think it does make you more determined to succeed and to really be able to bring this message to more people. And eventually you'll get to the point where people can't ignore the fact that everybody doesn't look like the supermodel, and that there are indeed trans people, and there are black people, and there are disabled people, and all of those people deserve to be seen. And I'm very I'm very excited that we can keep pushing that and keep making that more of a reality.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, would you think that your in business that your mindset is actually a really key part of success? Because obviously some of the negativity you've had, not being able to access funding, being told you're too small, you're unrealistic, now you're too big. If you didn't have that positive mindset and that self-belief, it would be very difficult to carry on and progress, wouldn't it?
It's impossible, and I see great brands not make it all the time, especially this year. It's been really sad for the amount of brands that we've lost, that are great concepts, and people don't believe in them, and you can't find a way through. And we've been really lucky. But I think mindset's hugely important. I've always, before I did this, I was a career CEO. Before I did that, I was a marketing director. And for me, I've always felt it's best to look at your business like you're the market leader, right? Everyone always goes, you should look at yourself like a challenger. And for me, you're always one step behind when you're a challenger, right? If you're the market leader, you're going, what great innovation is next? You're not going, oh, what's he doing? Oh, what's that person doing? Oh, maybe I can copy that. And I think, if you keep your mind completely set on the blue sky future and the art of the absolute possibility, I think you've got the greatest chance of success. So for me, it's always been, we see ourselves at Snag as the market leader, and that means that we can't just copy someone, right? The thing that we do next needs to be a complete innovation, and I think it keeps us on our toes and means that we're not stopping to look about. We're heading firmly, in front of us.
Definitely. I mean, have you ever been concerned about the business or specific aspects of it, different projects and development, not doing what you want? That sort of fear of failure that, again, for quite a lot of small businesses can be absolutely crippling to the point that they don't try things for fear that it's not going to work.
I think that's all about appetite for risk. And I think I'm quite lucky in the fact that I have quite a high appetite for risk. So for me, I'd rather take the punt and see if it works, because, the opportunity cost of it doing well has always been higher for me than the opportunity cost of it being, of it not working. But I can completely see how people do get paralyzed by that, and how that makes a really kind of a negative part of the business, because you can only afford to do so much. And when you don't know if something's going to work out, which you don't, how do you work out how much money you're going to put into it? How do you do all of that type of stuff? And there's nobody that's an expert in your business but you, so there's no one to ask for help. There's no one to get guidance from. So yeah, I can completely see how that's hard, but I think that's a key thing is being an entrepreneur, is that you have to be comfortable with risk, and hopefully you have a good FD who is less comfortable with risk. So, keeps you kind of like curtailed a little bit, but somebody has to be comfortable with risk in an entrepreneur environment. Otherwise, you're not going to make it.
No, but I think what you said there is about, you can be kind of welcoming of risk, but you can also look at the potential negative versus the potential downside. You can get quite analytical on it.
Yeah, no, you can, and I think it's all about. I've always said that I always think the best decisions are ones that can be unmade. So I only get concerned about a decision when you can't roll it back, and I think that's and if you're making a decision that you can't roll back, that requires a lot of data, a lot of evidence, and you need to be really, really thinking that through. If it's a decision where you can roll it back, actually, a decision is always more positive than no decision.
Yeah. And another thing you mentioned, sorry, I'm sort of jumping around based on the chapters I've got, about your amazing Facebook group with your 20,000 Snag fans. And I think the online community is amazing. I regularly see adverts or people talking about them. Has your tribe online, and maybe your tribe offline as well, how have you grown such a great group of people that have really helped to support and propel your business forward, as much as they love the product as well? How have you done that?
So I think, for a long time, we thought we'd created a community. And then it dawned on us that we didn't. That community was there already, and we give it voice. And I think that's, for me, the real kind of revelation around it, is that, a product is just a product. But when you're encouraging a group of people towards self-expression, and the belief that their bodies are valid, and that they are valid as people, and that they deserve to be seen, you suddenly find you're speaking for a massive community, because there's so many people that feel in that situation. And it's not about relating it back to your product, it's about the fact you have a very unique opportunity to give them voice, to give them expression, to give them the ability to be seen in a way that they've never been before. So I don't think we've created a community. I think we stand for one, and we are incredibly welcoming of that community, and we do a lot to help facilitate that, to give them safe spaces, and make sure people feel comfortable, and give them things to be passionate about, and try and move people forward on that kind of scale of self-acceptance, I guess.
Sure. No, that makes
But I think that's
sense.
very hard to do if you're just selling a product, right, to the same group of people. It doesn't work the same way for us. It's not about selling a product. It's about a journey.
Yeah, and I think that the best tribes and communities you see online, the ones that flag wave because they love what it's about, it's not just that the pair of tights is amazing. It's, as you say, it's how it makes them feel. It's what that means. It's that they found someone that gets them. And I think that does work across lots of different sort of tribes and communities as well. It's not just the product. If you just had a group saying tights, join if you like tights. Obviously, yours are actually amazing, but it's not just the tight. It's what having tights that fit means.
Yeah. Yeah, and what that does and continues to do to your self-esteem, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that, that's the journey that
Completely.
you see people on all the time, is they come in and they buy a black pair of tights, and then 3 months later they're wearing like bright pink and like a dress, and their hair's green, and they're going, I'm now the person I always wanted to be. We talk a lot about allowing people to be on the outside how they feel on the inside, and that's really what our job is finding the ways that lets people do that.
Completely. I've given loads of amazing advice, loads of amazing insight, which I'm really grateful for. Thank you. Is there anything else that you can think, maybe from your own journey, things you see in others, that would be really useful advice for people who are trying to grow a business or start a brand and they're just finding themselves a bit stuck?
So for me, I think there's two things. The first one is to make sure there's scale in the brand. And the tights market is worth $56 billion. So I was never worried that there wasn't scale within this sector, even though it's a niche one. But I see people start businesses all the time where they're like, I'm gonna create a kids brand for kids that like rock music, that are aged between 1 and 2, and you're looking at that and you're going, there's a million kids born in each group every year. With that niche, you're maybe looking at 200,000 kids. So say you got 1% of that population, you're starting to become in a very, very, very small niche market, and you can put a huge amount of effort into that.
Mm.
And it's never going to work because you're never going to have scale. And it seems like a silly thing, but the amount of businesses that I see that just don't consider whether or not the idea has scale or not, I think is a really key one. I think the other one is that you kind of can't really listen too much anyway to what other people tell you. You need to remember that you're an expert in your brand and they're not. And everyone will have their own opinion, but it doesn't mean it's the right one. And I think particularly if you're feeling a bit low and like stuff is really difficult, it's very easy to think somebody else can solve this for me. And the reality is they can't. The only person that can solve it is you. And it's like, if someone's there helping you by, bigging you up and making your self-esteem better, that person's positive. If they're going, oh, I think you should double your prices, I think you should change your logo from blue to red, like that person's actually not being helpful, because they don't know that any of that stuff will work, and actually that's not helping you.
I think those things can really undermine your self-confidence as well. If you're someone who's indecisive, doesn't know what to do, and someone's going, this will never work. Or I was
Yeah.
speaking to Suzanne Mulholland, the batch lady, and she was saying when she started doing what she does, people thought she was having some kind of midlife crisis. And she was getting this sort of feedback from people that if she wasn't who she was and she didn't have that vision and have that clear goal, those things were actually really damaging. And for somebody who wasn't quite as self-assured, maybe a bit younger, maybe a bit older, those things can just kill a dream, actually, can't they?
No, they really can. And the amount of people, like the amount of times people have said to me, can't you just stay in your lane, like, you've done tights, can't you just stay selling tights? Can't you, why do you have to think about other things? Why do you need to consider growing this more? Why do you need to go into new countries? Why do you need to? And you're like, who are you to tell me no? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. And
it's
why
it's
not?
nothing. It's nothing to do with you. And why not? Do you know what I mean? Why should we? And I think it's something that happens to women hugely. Is this like, stay in your lane, don't get above yourself, don't get uppity. And nobody would ever say that to a man. Not being difficult, but they really don't. But they say it to women all the time,
Yeah, I
and I
was
think that is horrible.
No, I think you're right. And I was looking. There's some things like a lady I follow on Instagram. She's awesome. She's a para dressage rider and she does commentary for different things. And she said, she put up a post on Instagram saying, why do people say to men, oh, are you babysitting today, when it's their child? But for a woman, it's expected. And just these little weird things that go on in society that you're like, oh yeah, dad's looking after the children. You think it's his child. It's not just mine.
I read this stat and it lives in my head rent free completely, which is that at any one time, if you're on the street and you stop a woman, 70% of women will be wearing shoes that are uncomfortable and 4% of men will be. And you're like, how much more pain and discomfort and unhappiness do we put up with just as a matter of course the men do? And it makes me really angry that's the case, and that's we just expect shoes to be painful. We just expect that stuff to happen to us because it does, right? And men are there going, I would never wear a painful pair of shoes. Look at me, I'm like juggling these children, it's babysitting. And you're like, oh, it makes me really mad.
I did not know that about the shoes, but that's kind of like symbolism for a lot of stuff that goes on, isn't it? It's just that moment and you think, actually,
yeah, this is not cool, guys. It's really not cool.
well, thank God for people like you fixing it. I know one product at a time, but thank God for people that do look and go, yeah, this is not right. This is not okay.
Yeah, it's just not fair. And I think the more we can fix that and the more we can, raise a new generation of women who, don't expect their shoes to be sore,
Completely.
Right? And expect that kind of basic equality is like, is all for the good.
Completely. Thank you so much for your time. I'll let you go now. You're an absolute rock star, and I'm so grateful that you had the time to speak to me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Really glad we got to catch up. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't got the You've Got This book yet, you can find it at all good bookshops and online. Just have a search of You've Got This and my name, Rhea Freeman. And if you want to find out more about Snag Tights, of course you do, and Snag, go to snagtights.com. And you can also follow the brand on Instagram at Brie from Snag is where you can follow the lady herself, or just Snag Tights.